Have you heard Miss Rachel, the pre-K kids content creator on YouTube with massive brand deals and sponsorships from corporate USA? Well, what if we told you she's an activist, eh? And she's ready to indoctrinate your kids with some of the craziest, most bizarro stuff you've ever seen or heard. Grab your kids, grab your wives. They're indoctrinating everybody up here with Miss Rachel. Mr. Rogers, she is not, but she's hot with all of the big brands across the US of A. They want Miss Rachel on diapers. They want her on pull-ups. They want her on sippy cups. But we're here to tell you what's really up, and that is she's a political nut job. No, really. Click that like button, smash that subscribe, and let's dive in to the sordid world of Miss Rachel. Well, here's Miss Rachel. Libs of TikTok is posting this on X. Miss Rachel is outside the Delaney Hall DHS Center in New Jersey, singing about knocking down walls and freeing criminal illegal aliens. Says Libs of TikTok. Parents, keep your kids away. Now, here is Miss Rachel. If you've not seen her before, I don't know how. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. She's got all kinds of sponsorships and brand deals. The merchandising at Walmart, Le Target. You can't get away from this woman. She's even in Costco. But she's going over to the Delaney Hall in something that's reminiscent of when AOC pretended to cry at a certain wall. Let's go now to Miss Rachel and what she's up to and what she's doing. And I think the message here is going to be, folks, you might agree with her, you might disagree with her, but is this the kind of stuff that kids need to be involved in? Here we go.
I'll sing from here and you sing from there. Together we'll sing down the walls everywhere.
Now, she's not talking about Jericho, ladies and gentlemen. She's talking about bringing down the borders of the US of A. I'm not making this up. That's literally what she's singing about, is bringing down the borders. She wants no borders, all right? Now, Miss Rachel has been called the Mr. Rogers of this generation. I don't think that's probably the right way to approach it. But it says, for millions of people, this is an article I've put out on thatparkplace.com, for millions of families, Miss Rachel is not a political figure. She is the smiling, over-enunciating, overall-wearing educator who sings Hop Little Bunnies, teaches first words, models baby sign language, and gives toddlers the feeling that someone on the other side of the screen is speaking directly to them. In other words, she has a huge direct connection with little kids in their formative years. That has been enormously powerful. Rachel Griffin Accurso, known professionally as Miss Rachel, built her following by presenting herself as a warm, developmentally informed children's educator in the tradition of great preschool television hosts. She's often referred to as today's Mr. Rogers, gentle, patient, emotionally attuned, and focused on the inner lives of very young children. However, folks, and I'm citing this post that we just showed you, this kind of a photo op, it's got to stop, or else I think parents need to consider removing themselves from Miss Rachel, and I'll explain why. It says here, consider for a moment that the Delaney Hall DHS Center is often where children are being housed because they've been brought in by organized criminal activity to use them in some of the most heinous and evil means imaginable. Miss Rachel isn't at the border protesting the cartels. Instead, she's in New Jersey, close to her productions, doing photo op sing-alongs with kids in a way that is meant to judge the legal system that tries to protect said children and their families. And all because she's trying to get a win when it comes to immigration. But I don't know what the point of this is if it's all about the kids. All right, Christian, what do you think about Miss Rachel becoming such a politically active kind of individual when I don't think this is how Mr. Rogers or even Sesame Street today doesn't do it this way?
I have so much to say. First of all, I'm so glad my kids are teenagers now and not exposed to her. Second of all, I really have to formally apologize to Barney, who I hated about 10 years ago when he was raising my kids. He never did stuff like this. Third of all, I see this with my teenagers now, where their educators are basically propagandists and they're pushing very specific points of view onto them, not giving them both sides, not teaching them how to think creatively and with different points of view. And finally, if she really cared about kids, she wouldn't be doing this. She would understand her place in the culture and she wouldn't abuse it in this fashion. Listen, she's a bully and a fraud. And you want to talk about some of the abuses going on at the border. You want to talk about the separated families. You want to talk about the families' lives who've been ruined by illegal immigrants who came here and hurt someone and killed someone. Let's talk about that. But her virtue signaling at this sing-along is really reprehensible. I want to be funny about this, but I don't think this is remotely funny.
Well, she also is definitively linked with Mamdani, the mayor of New York. And of course, he's right. He's a socialist, communist, whatever you want to call him. But Miss Rachel, and you could say, well, Elmo appeared in Congress, right? Okay, here's the deal. I'll give an anecdote, okay? In my navigating of this world, there was a time in a prior career where there was a young lady who would basically not speak. And it was brought to my attention that this young lady basically would not speak. And we needed to figure out why the young lady would not speak. There were no issues that would cause her to not talk and this sort of thing. And what came to our attention is this individual who was within the organization had been trafficked into the United States, had suffered some of the most, heinous things under the control of the cartels, and as a result had been tormented into, let's say, not interacting with society in a healthy way anymore. Just absolutely tormented in a way that was just awful. And I think about at the Delaney Hall Immigration Detention Center that perhaps some of those people who might have tormented this young woman, that might be the place they go. Or that if she were being tormented, or if the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of kids who have gone through that same sort of thing crossing the border, if they are taken to the detention center to keep them away from their tormentors, then I'm A-okay with separating kids until we figure out where are the loving parents, if there are any? And if not, where are other loving family members? And for Miss Rachel then to do a photo op singing outside as if, she's protesting the atrocities of World War II, I think it's so utterly disingenuous. I think it's ultra low resolution and it paints with such a broad brush. I think it's just awful. I think it's awful.
I couldn't agree more. And also, where are the journalists? Where are the people asking her some tough but fair questions about all the work that she does? Will she ever face a single sobering question about her activism? It just never happens. And that's one of the wonderful things if you have certain points of view and you want to share them with the world. And by the way, when you become a children's entertainer, it's a really special position. It has power. There's a responsibility involved. It's almost like a duty to do better, to treat kids well, and to do everything at your disposal to make their lives a little brighter, to make them a little more well-informed, to work with their parents. And she's just pushing all that aside because she's an activist. That's a really negative, nasty thing. I met Mr. Rogers years ago when I was working in Pittsburgh, and he was delightful, and he was exactly as you think. And I was the journalist there, but he was asking me more questions than I was asking him. But you look at the life and the span of his career, he never abused his position like she's doing right now. Shame on her.
Right.
I looked into it. All of the journalists are in foxholes in the desert and in under combat conditions.
All right, Paley Peely, that's a different story.
Gotta stick your chin out.
That's right. Michelle, the other thing with Miss Rachel, she gets all these brand deals. She gets these huge sponsorships. Her cartoon face is everywhere. And then that's when she pulls this. And I wonder how many of those companies may regret being associated with her now. I don't know how they might feel. But this is not the first major controversy for her. She's been caught many times posting things that then she says, well, it was a mistake, or I didn't mean to click the button, or I didn't mean to like that. And then the typical response that she does is she cries. Like she will do some kind of tearful, it's not my fault, I'm being picked on, I'm going to disappear from the internet for a while, I just love kids thing. And it's like, okay, we've done that enough now. Why are you dancing in front of the barbed wire? What are you up to exactly?
Yeah, well, this is my introduction to Miss Rachel. I
am so sorry.
I did not know who Miss Rachel was.
I feel badly about us now. Have you not wondered who this cartoon, kid-looking character with the overalls is on the toilet paper and the diapers and all that?
I've not seen it. Yeah, again, I've not ever seen Miss Rachel.
We got to go check out the baby aisle so you'll say she's everywhere. She's everywhere.
Yeah, she kind of gives the energy of but less cool. The kindergarten teacher in Billy Madison.
Have you listened to her yet? While we were doing the thing? Okay, imagine this. It's something like this. Okay. Oh my my gosh, we're at the Delaney Detention Center. People are evil. Can you say evil? Like that would be Miss Rachel. And that's the level that she speaks. So to see her, weighing in on immigration is just, it's a strange, strange world. Jonas, I'll give you the final thought on Miss Rachel. I think that a lot of well-meaning parents sometimes sit their kids in front of Cocomelon or Bluey or Miss Rachel or whatever. And listen, I think Bluey's fantastic. Do that. But parents have to know now that some of these kids content creators, they're political activists, and they're not. They have no qualms about putting in political messaging to kids' shows.
Right. Well, there used to be something called standards and practices that would keep them away from all of this stuff, and then they started putting GLAAD consultants on sets of major productions. When you have a YouTube entertainer who is doing all of this stuff, you never know. You might be watching a video that is about the progress of the Gonzo costume at Disney parks, and then all of a sudden you get a rant from a bizarre, indoctrinated, person in their middle age talking about the Gonzarella episode of Muppet Babies. So YouTube has no standards other than the standards of what the individual content creator is, and it's a funny thing. Whenever they do start diminishing the reach of anything on YouTube, it tends to go in one direction. So in a way, YouTubers are, quote unquote, more relatable. But in another way, that also means they may not have the practice on not being as corruptible as an establishment person. Not that the establishment isn't corrupt already. With Miss Rachel, we dodged that bullet in our house, but we also have a rule that we have to watch something before our kids are able to watch that unsupervised. And even then, you still need to keep an ear open, because you never know when Elmo's going to start talking about who's at the Pride picnic. Not that we watch Sesame Street anymore either. My goodness, this is really the problem. They've killed children's entertainment in the name of propaganda, and it's so frustrating. It is... Honestly, it's anxiety inducing for a lot of parents that I talk to, that they don't want to trust anything that their kids are after. So they just turn off Disney Plus altogether, and they say, oh, well, we'll watch Super Kitties. Well, Super Kitties also got GLAAD nominations. So you really can't trust the YouTubers for the children's content.
Jonas, any thoughts on the brand partners and how they might be feeling now that she's also, she's become such an activist? Do you think they have regrets, or do you think most of those companies are in line?
I'd shut it down. To me, this is something that the brand partners need to get away as soon as possible. The idea of selling children's products and having any of this on it, she's not a brightly colored figure like an Elmo or a Grover. She is just some lady in pink with overalls. This is a brand that does not reach the saturation that it needs to be a mainstay. Right. I know there's somebody out there who cannot get away from Miss Rachel that thinks I'm crazy, but no, this can be replaced by a bunch of puppies in cartoon first responder hats on the drop of a dime. So
to give people an idea, and we're not naming these for any kind of nefarious purposes, folks. We're not telling you to make any kind of transactional decisions. I just want for you to understand who's stuck with her right now, and maybe they want to get out. Stride Right, which is a footwear company that does the light up shoes for kids. She's got a sippy cup deal. She is Target sells potty training gift sets that have her on it. There's an organic baby food company called Stonyfield Organic that she's with. She has deals with listen to some of these. They might agree with her. She's with Save the Children. She's with the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, the World Food Program USA.
Wonder if Donnie likes her.
But she's with Crayola. So some of these are like bigger brands like Crayola. I mean, I bet Crayola did not anticipate that she would be doing this sort of thing when they said, hey, let's stick our crayons, attach that to the brand.
I actually disagree with you on this to a degree. I think that the Bud Light cancellation campaign was an aberration. I think for the most part, people who would be aghast at this don't really mobilize and don't activate.
Do you think that's true, Christian, with kids content though? Because the kids content thing, people are more, I think, and the reason I ask that is because of Disney. We saw the reaction to Disney with like Lightyear and Strange World. So do you think that same crowd is paying attention or no?
I think the Disney stuff was chronic. It was in your face. You could recognize it directly. And it had a lot of energy behind it, especially on digital media. I just don't get the sense that people are as activated, collectively worried about what we're seeing now with Miss Rachel. I just don't think it's got that the numbers to make them worry right now, because it's going to take big numbers to make these advertisers say, oh, wait a minute, maybe we made a mistake. That's what had to happen to Bud Light. They were going to go, guns a-blazing with Dylan Mulvaney, as they didn't care. But when everything crashed around them, then they cared. You've got to see some sort of dramatic action before these companies realize maybe it's not good to align ourselves with someone like Miss Rachel.
I'll throw one more in here. Miss Rachel is not co-viewing. Muppets was a co-viewing brand. Sesame Street was something that an adult could potentially watch with their child and not necessarily be mind-numb by it. Coco Melon and Miss Rachel are in a realm that a parent puts it on and while they want to do something else.
And that's why it's more insidious what she's up to.
Content. This is something that you put on to try to distract your child so you can have a little me time or something.
Do the dishes,
like
yeah.
So the danger is higher because parents don't want to watch it. And I actually think that's the problem with Disney. Disney is a co-viewing brand, or you get infantilized adults who want to give it the excuse of it being a kid's film, but they get some of their own feelings trickling in there because of the former quality of what it was. So we talk about the Disney adults all the time, and I'm an adult who likes old Disney content. I'm not going to lie. My daughter was watching Cinderella the other day, and they start playing When You Wish Upon a Star, A Dream Is Your Wish Your Heart Makes, and I get choked up at the wonder of that masterpiece, or any other older Disney piece of content. And there is a reclamation of your childhood there. That's not the case with Miss Rachel. It is belittling to children, this content. And Fred Rogers spoke to children where they are, but he respected them. So Fred Rogers really stands apart. He hated the commercialization of children's stuff. He never had products for children in that way. He had some storybooks that were about life lessons. He didn't. You weren't going out and seeing Rogers' face on the shelf. So it's just like, to me, it's like Roblox. If this disappeared forever, I wouldn't. The brand, I'm not saying anything about the person. I wish he would find another line of work as far as that concerned. Nothing would be lost if this was gone. It would just be replaced with the next thing.
There you go, folks. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe switching over to Bluey or Blippy, and sing about a garbage truck. Miss Rachel, you might tune into her, and she's saying, do you know the letter A? Can you say Mamdani? Can you say vote Mamdani? Yay, commies! The letter C. One of the greatest things we get to do each and every day is speak out and reach out to folks who don't know how entertainment works. And frankly, we think entertainment matters so much. It's why we do what we do. And you can help us send this out to even more folks. Click that like button, share, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. And wouldn't you know it, folks, we're even on Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. We've got to go, but until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.